folks, Rob Dreemeyer here. Welcome to Broadway Barfly.
If you're a theater fan who loves a great cocktail, click that subscribe button because Broadway Barfly is the channel for you.
Katharine Hepburn had one of Hollywood's most distinguished careers, but there was a time early on when her career suffered some almost irreparable damage. Throughout the mid-1930s, she starred in a string of films, all of which were box office failures. And in 1938, she was named in a magazine article called Box Office Poison, and that was the last thing any movie star wanted to read about themselves. She knew she had to do some damage control and made some interesting choices. She bought out her studio contract and she returned to Broadway in a play called The Philadelphia Story. The Philadelphia Story was written by her friend Philip Barry, and it's about Tracy Lord, a Philadelphia society girl about to be married for the second time. Just before the wedding, a magazine digs up some dirt on her father who's had an affair with a dancer. And in order to save face for the family, they allow the magazine to cover Tracy's society wedding in exchange for burying the story about the father. A reporter and a photographer show up on the scene, as does her ex-husband, and of course the mayhem begins. Barry wrote the role specifically for Katharine Hepburn, and when she decided to accept it, she wasn't just planning a return to Broadway. It was actually part of a much larger plan to revitalize her Hollywood career, and she made some interesting decisions. She provided some financing for the play in order to ensure that it was actually produced, and she also purchased the film rights for the play because she knew if it was a hit, film studios would be interested in it as a property for their leading ladies. Well, The Philadelphia Story was a hit on Broadway, and as predicted, the film studios came inquiring only to find that they had to deal with Katharine Hepburn. This allowed her to make a really nice deal for herself with MGM. In exchange for the film rights, she was given the opportunity to star in the film, and alongside her they cast two of their biggest box office draws, Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart. Well, when the film opened in 1940, it was a success both financially and artistically, and so Katharine Hepburn accomplished her mission of revitalizing her Hollywood career. MGM wasn't done with The Philadelphia Story, and several years later in the mid-1950s, they did a musical remake that was called High Society. High Society starred Grace Kelly in her final film role before becoming Princess Grace of Monaco, and she starred alongside Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby. Cole Porter wrote the score for High Society, and though it has some nice songs, when it's compared to other Cole Porter scores, it's fairly undistinguished. And one of the film's most popular songs, Well Did Ya Ever, What a Swell Party This is actually recycled from a musical that Cole Porter wrote many years earlier. The song was added to the film as sort of a second thought because they realized that they needed a spot for Sinatra and Crosby to actually sing together. High Society, the film, was again adapted into a Broadway musical in 1998. There isn't much to say about the Broadway production of High Society because, well, it really didn't live up to the swell party it promised to be and closed after only a couple of months. If we learn anything from The Philadelphia Story or High Society, is that rich people drink a lot. And drinking and getting drunk actually provides some significant plot points to the story. For the most part, their drink of choice is champagne, and so we are going to make a classic champagne cocktail. There are all sorts of champagne cocktails, mimosas and bellinis, for example, but what we're going to be making is considered a classic champagne cocktail. It's a very old drink, and it first was described in print in a book called Panama in 1855, which was a book about the writer's account of his travels through Panama in 1855. And he describes being served a champagne cocktail. So the drink was certainly created before that time, and it's thought to have originated in San Francisco. It was created during what I now know is called the Iron Age of American mixology, which is a very fancy term to describe this indeterminate period between when these cocktails were actually first created and 1862, when they were described in the first published Bartender's Guide. So that period between when the cocktail was created and 1862 is called the Iron Age of American mixology. Who knew? Well, the champagne cocktail was always very popular, and it got a surge in popularity in the 1930s, which is the time period of the Philadelphia story, because it was featured in several prominent cocktail books. And two in particular were important. One was called the Savoy Cocktail Book, which was a book about cocktails that were served at the Savoy Hotel in London, and also a similar book about cocktails from the Waldorf Astoria. So at that time, you could have gone to any of these swank establishments and ordered a champagne cocktail while rubbing your elbows with high society. We only need a few things to make our champagne cocktail. Champagne, of course, cognac, bitters, and a sugar cube. The instructions for making this are very specific, so I'm going to try and get it right. We start by taking a bar napkin and putting it on top of our champagne flute, and taking our sugar cube and putting it on top of the napkin. And then we go ahead and we douse the sugar cube with a good maybe 3 or 4 dashes of the bitters. We use this napkin, one, to keep the inside of the glass clean, and we also are able to use the napkin as a chute to drop it down into the bottom of the glass. The next thing we do is we add an ounce of the cognac, like that. Now what the sugar cube's going to do is serve as sort of a seltzer tablet or like a bath bomb and keep effervescing as we're enjoying the drink. And then we are going to top it off with our champagne. And then we garnish with a lemon peel. And there you have a champagne cocktail fit for any swell party.
If you enjoyed the video, why not give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends? Feel free to leave your comments and click that subscribe button because there's a lot more Broadway Barfly to come.